I'm Courtney Fallon, and welcome to The Game Plan on Breach TV, your insider guide to this week's key NFL action. In The Game Plan, I tap into the Bleav podcast network to bring you the most important information you need to know to stay in the loop. It now feels like the offseason is finally here as the NFL Draft Combine kicks off this week in Indianapolis. And there's breaking news on free agents running rampant all across the league. Very exciting times. So to go over all of this big news that you need to know about, I'm joined by my buddy Antwan Staley from the Backpage Breakdown podcast. Antwan, you ready to play 3 and Out?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Let's do it.
Okay, first down. You are more or less reporting live, Antwan, from Indianapolis in the media room, right there where the Combine is going down. What is the big news that is surrounding the Combine, at least right now, this week?
I think it's a few big stories. I think you look at the Chicago Bears and Justin Fields and what they're going to do. Are they going to take Caleb Williams? And if they do, are they going to trade Justin Fields to, whoever the highest bidder is going to be, whether that's the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Atlanta Falcons, or whoever else it may be. But, yeah, I think that's the looming story heading into the offseason and also the Combine right now.
Have you heard any news on which quarterbacks are going to be performing their fullest extent at the Combine?
Yeah, I know Jaden Daniels will a little bit, but, Drake May and also Caleb Williams will wait to the pro day, but they are here in attendance.
Good stuff right there. Second down, where do you see Russell Wilson playing in 2024?
I think it makes sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're a team that's on the cusp of, doing something really, possibly being a contender. They have a really good defense, great defender in TJ Watt as well. And they just need a quarterback. We saw Kenny Pickett there, had some struggles there, obviously was injured as well, ended up going to Mason Rudolph. But they'll have a guy like Russell Wilson who can also push Pickett, one, to maybe continue to develop, and also they can continue to try to win under Mike Tomlin. I think that's the best case scenario for Russell, also to get out of Denver, and also for Mike Tomlin to keep trying to continue to contend in the AFC.
Third down, Antwan, you have your nose to the grindstone out there. I mean, so many coaches, so many general managers. Have you gotten word of where possibly Davante Adams could be traded if he does not stay with the Raiders?
I think he's going to stay with the Raiders. Everything I've talked to as far as people out there in Vegas, that he wants to stay out there. He wanted to go out there to begin with. The players love him, and they really want to play for him. And I think we kind of saw that late in the season where after they fired Josh McDaniels, they really played hard for him. And obviously, they didn't make the playoffs, but I think they're a team that could continue to contend in the AFC. And if they can find a quarterback, then, we'll see what they can do in a tough AFC West. But I think he's going to stay where he is.
Final question, bonus question. Which team has the most on the line for this upcoming draft? Which team has to really nail this upcoming draft in order to make a big splash going into the upcoming season?
I think we got to look at the Bears once again. I mean, they have 2 picks in the top 10 as well. Have a guy, Matt Eberflus, who I believe is on the hot seat as well. And then it seems like they're going to turn over quarterbacks and go to Caleb Williams. So they have to be able to get this done and get this and be able to contend in the NFC North too as well. So it's a lot of pressure on them.
We love it, Antwan. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the Combine, and we will talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you, Courtney.
All right, coming up next, we are discussing the top offensive lineman free agents available this offseason. The offensive line is the backbone of every successful team. And to find out the top free agent offensive linemen on the market, I'm joined by my buddy Khari Thompson from the Bleav in Ravens podcast. Khari, welcome back to the show. Now let's find out who are the best big boys on the market.
The first guy I want to talk about is our guy Tyron Smith from the Dallas Cowboys. A little bit older, right? A little bit longer in the tooth, but when the guy is healthy, he is still an absolute beast. Now, I say all this knowing that there's probably a very good chance the Dallas Cowboys are going to want to keep this guy in town, have him retire a Cowboy because he's been that good and that meaningful to that organization. But this is a guy who can keep on playing for a little while and do so at a high level with another team.
The next one on my list, Michael Onwenu, New England Patriot. I mean, he was up and coming, and they really had to groom him for a little bit. Why is he the biggest name or second biggest name on your offensive line list?
He is so interesting because, since he came into the league, really, he's been a very versatile and very dependable guy. Obviously, he's been an offensive guard for the most part, but then they bumped him out to right tackle last year to the New England Patriots, and he put up a solid season. Now, he's a bigger guy, so he might be a little bit more limited to, kind of gap downhill power schemes. So there's going to be a little bit of interest in terms of where do other teams see him.
Let's talk about another guy, Robert Hunt. Dolphins, what do you think? He's going to stay, or is he kind of like the first one off of your board that you could see moving into the open market?
He can play both guard and center very well. He's kind of in that prime age right here. He's still 27 years old. It's hard to get better at the guard position than Robert Hunt. If he's really after, almost $18 million a year, he might price himself out of Miami, but he's willing to slide down a little bit on that scale. Might work out a little better.
Back on the New England Patriots, Trent Brown, I would say a little disgruntled in New England with his time and tenure with Bill Belichick. Could he be the one that could be jumping to another team, and do you have a proper fit for him?
He's another one like Onwenu, where his market might be a little bit limited because of the scheme fit. But let me tell you, when he's on the field, he is very dependable. Teams that are really trying to build around a young quarterback, Trent Brown is a plug-and-play guy. And he's not going to cost quite as much because he hasn't cost quite that much over the last couple of years.
The last offensive lineman that we have on our list, Connor Williams. I will say this one thing. He has Drew Rosenhaus as his agent, so don't tell me that he's going to come cheap.
He is perhaps the most fascinating name on the list because he is so good, but he just suffered an ACL injury that he's still recovering from. But as long as he's recovering well and he can show that he can get into training camp and potentially be ready to play during the season, then I think it's worth it for a team because he is that good. Looking at a team like the Chicago Bears, I think that could be worth it for a team like that.
You are our guy, Khari Thompson. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you on again soon. When we return, we will be recapping the season for the Carolina Panthers as Jonathan Stewart and Skylar Callahan join me on the game plan. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. The Carolina Panthers finished 2-15 on the season, which blew in a storm of changes for the organization. From GM to head coach and almost everything in between, the Panthers made wholesale changes ahead of the 2024 season. To recap this past year for Carolina, let's hear from Jonathan Stewart and Skylar Callahan from the Bleav in Panthers podcast. Guys, what do you got for me?
The difference between last year and the year before news conference, with Reich and Rule, I feel like people left not needing to be convinced. And I'm not saying like they won people over or they won like we're going to automatically have success. I'm not saying any of that. But what I am saying is you left feeling comfortable. You left feeling, okay, we're in good hands. This organization's in good hands. A sense of pride to be able to walk, in that stadium, walk out of the stadium. You should have a sense of pride right now going into this offseason. And you should think to yourself, what does patience look like? Because you're going to have to be patient. I think they're building the right staff, front office. It's going to take time to get the right players. You look at the 49ers, 2017, right? You look at how Shanahan and John Lynch came together, and it took them 6 years to reach this point, right? So it's going to take time, but it doesn't have to take 6 years either.
Well, certainly the Carolina Panthers are going to be the biggest rebuild and the most challenging rebuild the NFL has seen in this offseason. They do not have a first-round pick in this upcoming April 2024 draft because of the trade. And Bryce Young is coming into this year with higher expectations now that CJ Stroud, who was another quarterback taken by the Houston Texans, did significantly better than him last year. Defensive end Brian Burns wants big-time money after playing the last year of his rookie deal. But the good news is Carolina Panthers are $42 million under the cap, so they have some stuff to work with in free agency. Oh, the Chiefs, the Super Bowl champion Chiefs. They had an up and down regular season as they dropped some key games in 2023. But like the champions that they are, they knew how to win and truly knew when it counted. And they did it in back-to-back years. To recap, the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Let's hear from Jason Dunn and Marcus Dash from the Chief Concerns podcast. Guys, what is next for these Super Bowl champs?
Thanks, Courtney. So, JD, obviously the Chiefs' offseason begins and ends with Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed, but there's other vacancies that the Chiefs have as well, and that is our left tackle spot, which was held down by Donovan Smith this year.
Obviously, the left tackle spot is a very important position. So we look at Donovan Smith, who did a great job for us last year, who's a free agent. I would love to sign Donovan Smith to another long-term deal if we could get him something here. If not, then we have a very young guy a very capable guy that came in and took over for Donovan Smith when he was hurt. And his name is Wanya Morris. Wanya Morris is a tall, very athletic off the tackle, did well for us. And if we don't have Donovan Smith, Wanya Morris would be the next best option for us.
So if you were to kind of look at the free agency market and the landscape, comes down for you'd rather have Donovan Smith, and if not Donovan Smith, stick with the young buck.
Or if we're thinking about trying to save money because we have two big signings we need to do on the defensive side with Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed, I think we would try to do something else as far as going out breaking the bank with another free agent left tackle that I don't think would do a much better job than Morris would perform.
All right, we'll see what Brett Veach has to do this offseason. He's got a lot of work ahead of him. So a lot of work. All right. Well, thanks, JD. Back to you, Courtney.
Well, we are all excited to see what the Chiefs can do in the offseason, especially when it circles around the wide receiver position, getting more help for Travis Kelce, of course, as a tight end. But for Patrick Mahomes, he needs more weapons on the offensive side of the ball. So getting him that help, making sure that team stays healthy, and of course, returning all of the coaches. Steve Spagnuolo getting a new deal, and Andy Reid returning. Things are looking up for these Kansas City Chiefs. Can they three-peat? We shall see. And finally, let's wrap up the season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs surprised us all after finishing atop of the NFC South and making a very entertaining run in the playoffs. But no team may have more questions going into the offseason than these Tampa Bay Bucs. To wrap up their season, let's hear from Rhett Matthew and Evan Wanish from the Cannon Fire podcast. Guys, what do you got for me?
Thanks, Courtney. Earlier this offseason, it was reported that Mike Evans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were far apart on what the terms would be on a new contract extension, but according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, who appeared on SportsCenter this last Sunday, the Bucs are going to try and bring back Mike Evans in, quote, a major way, something that Mike has been vocal about since the start of this whole process. Now, Evan, NFL teams were notified that after the salary cap being raised, does this have anything to do with the Buccaneers making the re-signing of Mike Evans a little bit more of a priority?
Potentially, but I would still expect Mike Evans to probably hit the open market. Now, that being said, I do think the expectation is probably Mike Evans staying in Tampa Bay. I know there's been a lot of speculation about teams like the Houston Texans, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Detroit Lions, potential teams he could sign with, but ultimately, I do think the most likely scenario here is Mike Evans coming back to Tampa Bay on a deal that's fair for both sides. So, while I think it obviously doesn't hurt Tampa Bay's chances, right, with the salary cap going up, gives them a little bit more money to spend, it also gives other teams more money to potentially throw out at Mike Evans as well. But while I would expect Mike Evans to hit the open market when the tampering period begins on March 11th and free agency begins on March 13th, I still do think it's probably most likely he's going to be back in red and pewter.
We appreciate it. Back to you, Courtney.
I think the most important thing for this Tampa Bay Bucs team right now is taking advantage of a very weak division. The NFC South, one of the weakest divisions in the NFL right now. And something that Baker Mayfield returning as a starting quarterback could just make things so much easier for their offense. I think Bucs GM Jason Light has his work cut out for him, but it's not out of the question to bring back both Baker Mayfield and his starred wide receiver, Mike Evans, who has been a mainstay and 1,000-yard receiver for years in the past and should be for years to come. The iconic Big Ten Conference is one of the key factories for top-shelf NFL talent. To go over the top talent entering this upcoming NFL draft from the Big Ten, let's hear from Adam Carriker from the Big Ten Show on Bleav.
Thank you, Courtney. And here are my top 5 Big Ten players heading into this year's NFL draft. Now, right off the top, quarterback from USC, Caleb Williams, a former Heisman Trophy winner, has been said by some to be the best quarterback prospect since RG3 and Andrew Luck in 2012. Others see him as a potential big-time bust, but this is my top projected pick from the Big Ten Conference heading into this year's NFL Draft. Number 2, Marvin Harrison Jr. This is a guy who's as sure a lock as you're going to find in this year's NFL Draft. This can possibly be now. Sometimes he has a little bit of problem getting off the line of scrimmage with that man coverage, but beyond that, he's big, tall, fast. He has elite athleticism and runs a 4.39. Next up, another wide receiver. This is a loaded wide receiver class. Rome Odunze out of Washington. This is a guy with a silky smooth vertical who offers upside as a big-time playmaker. His body control is insane. His ability to adjust to the ball in the air along with his great hands makes him a big-time potential NFL wide receiver down the road. Next up, Penn State offensive tackle Olu Fashon. Only 1 sack in 21 career starts. Now, he has the physical traits and footwork of a top elite NFL lineman. And last but certainly not least, quarterback out of Michigan, J.J. McCarthy. A little bit more unproven, didn't have to do as much at Michigan despite leading his team to a national championship. He's got the ability to make big-time plays if developed in the right system with the right coaches. All right, back to you, Courtney.
Outside of the SEC, the Big Ten always delivers top talent. It is a top-tier conference, of course, delivering our national champion, the Michigan Wolverines, as well. It's always interesting to see how some of their players perform in the draft as well as on their specific pro days. Okay, it is that time of the show to play Pick 6 on the game plan, and this week we will be discussing the top 6 wide receivers in the AFC with Matt Sims from the Sims Complete podcast. Matt, welcome back to the show. Are you ready to play Pick 6?
Let's do it.
Okay, well, we got your list. We're going to go top to bottom, 1 to 6. So number 1 is everyone's favorite. Tyreek Hill is number 1, is the number 1 wide receiver on your AFC list. Why is that?
Oh, man. And he might not even be number 1 in the AFC list. I think he is number 1 in the entire NFL. But just for the sake of the exercise, we'll stick to the AFC. Tyreek Hill, the cheetah, the dude is absolutely a beast when it comes to just creating explosive plays. You know, everyone says that he's a little undersized, but hey, he still makes great plays over the middle and can make explosive plays no matter what. He is a game-changing football player for any football team he plays for, and he is absolutely an MVP caliber player.
He is a terrific player. Sky's the limit for him, truly. I mean, we'll see what happens next season for sure. Number 2 on your list is a Bengal favorite. His name is Ja'Marr Chase. Why did he make your list at number 2?
Ja'Marr Chase, I mean, just a great route runner, can really do a little bit of everything for the Cincinnati Bengals. He can play outside, he can play slot. He does a great job of catching the football aggressively over the middle in traffic. He is absolutely number 1 for Joe Burrow and the target that he's always looking for in crunch time. Ja'Marr Chase is a game changer for the Cincinnati Bengals and his versatility, his superior route running, and he's going to be someone that Joe Burrow is going to be looking to consistently this year to get back into that Super Bowl run.
Number 3 is a guy that I really hope that stays on the team that I'm about to mention, Stephon Diggs. Hey, listen, he went to Maryland, he a Terp. Wow, what an asset he is to Josh Allen.
Yeah, we know he's a Terp, and rightfully so. You got to respect those Terps out there in the NFL, right? And we know that he's a great playmaker. We know that he can catch footballs, right, in tough situations. But his leadership, what he brings to the room, the attitude that he brings to that receiver room, I think is absolutely got to be up there with some of the greatest leaders in the game right now. And he is one of the main reasons why Josh Allen has improved at the quarterback position because of his trust in that. Hopefully, they can resolve their issues here this offseason. They can get that offense back on track.
And hopefully they can get over the hump, beat the Chiefs, and potentially go to the Super Bowl. I think that's what we were all hoping for this year. Number 4 on your list is T. Higgins, who just got franchise tagged. Why is he your number 4 on the list?
I mean, this is a guy that I think really is going to be a superstar for the Cincinnati Bengals, or maybe another team, depending on how this offseason plays out. But his size, his ability to catch the football above the rim is unbelievable. His ability to be just physical down the field, too, and catching footballs down in the red zone area, I think is a huge aspect to what he brings to the table. Joe Burrow, he's in a great position right now because he's got 2 on the list here. So T. Higgins is an absolute baller.
So T. Higgins went from nothing to something on Matt Sims's list.
Yeah, it's all right.
Number 5 is another Miami Dolphin. It's Jalen Waddle. He is a terrific asset as well to Tua Tagovailoa, especially when you have Tyreek Hill going over top.
Yeah, for sure. And this is really, I think, why Jalen Waddle is on this list right now, is because he does have Tyreek on the other side. So Jalen really does get favorable situations in those one-on-one matchups on the backside. And we know that McDaniels does a great job of drawing up for him, but his speed, his ability to run multiple routes, play outside, play inside, is the reason why Jalen Waddle is in this list right now. He's young. He's got the aspect to be game breaker at any time. And him with that 1-2 matchup with Tyreek is unstoppable.
Matt Sims with his pick 6, top AFC wide receivers. We are reaching number 6. And I'm just going to let you introduce this because I have nothing to do with this guy. He plays for the Jets. Who's number 6 on your list?
Yes, I'm going with Garrett Wilson. Now, I know that we haven't really seen much, right, from Garrett Wilson because of their situation, but I'm praying to God for Jets fans out there and for Garrett Wilson right now that Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy and we can actually finally see the potential that Garrett Wilson has. We know he's a good football player. We know he's a great route runner. We know that he can make all the tough catches. Can Aaron Rodgers stay healthy for Garrett Wilson too?
You said it. I did not. Thank you so much for your time. This is a fantastic list, and I love the the thoroughness of all of this. We really went through each one bit by bit. Matt, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
That's all the time we have on the Game Plan today. Go check out the Bleav Podcast Network for more in-depth analysis on every team in the league, and we will see you next week as we continue to prepare for the NFL Draft.